The private sector will now be working with police to tackle rampant crime in key economic sectors. That's according to the Business Day. They will share resources to enable more prosecutions. We're joined now by Business Unity South Africa CEO Cas Coovadia. Cas, good evening. Thanks for your time. So the story then been run by the Business Day about a meeting that has taken place, including some of the country's top CEOs, to really mainstream or streamline some of the efforts around crime in this country. What do you, as Business Unity South Africa, know about it?
Well, Business Unity South Africa has been at the center of this. Business for South Africa, which is a platform we created and which is an implementation arm for Business Unity South Africa, has been working on this under a mandate from Busa. I was at the meeting yesterday, and this is part of an initiative where we met with the President in April and put to him that energy, logistics, and crime and corruption are the three critical priority areas we need to address in the short term. And this initiative is about the short to medium term. That if we can make some critical interventions in these three areas, with government and business working together, with business bringing resources and capacity to bear, then we can at least halt the slide that the country is in and begin to turn this big ship around over a period of time. We believe that if we're successful in these three areas and successful in actually making a difference in energy and getting the President's energy plan well on the road and stabilizing load shedding at lower levels for a period of time until we get rid of it. If in logistics we actually start rebuilding our ports, get our rail system going again, get goods onto the rail rather than onto the road, on the road where they are being transported currently, and get our roads fixed up. And then on crime and corruption, to deal with organized crime, to increase the capacity of the NPA in a way that it does not impinge upon the independence to actually build strong cases and prosecute, and then to take care of issues that actually impact negatively on ordinary citizens from a crime and corruption point of view. So those are the issues that we're focusing on. There are plenty other issues to deal with in the country, but we do want to focus on these three, work with government on this, and in 6 to 8 months, hopefully we make a difference.
I'm interested to know how you see the operating model working, because ultimately many of these services that you've spoken about are services that are delivered by public entities. To what extent can the private sector get involved without really encroaching on that territory? I would imagine that there also need to be firm agreements in place about how that support and the intervention from the business community comes in.
Yeah, absolutely, and those are important points. So this is not about the private sector doing what government should be doing. This is about the private sector putting into place resources and capacity to enable government to effectively, efficiently, and with speed do what it must do. We are not the government. We certainly don't want to be government. I think all the relationships we are building are on an arm's length basis. The structures that have been created and are being created are government structures in which the private sector will participate. Even when we raised funds to put expertise into the National Energy Crisis Committee at the request of the President, we did so by putting together a not-for-profit to do two things. One is to raise the funds, and then in a transparent and open way, secure through public procurement processes to secure the expertise and donate the expertise to NECOM in the presidency. That expertise is accountable to NECOM and the presidency, not to the private sector. So we're doing this on an arm's length basis. In the crime area, we're resuscitating business against crime that will manage this from the business point of view, and we will then work with the law enforcement agencies to see how in a arm's length basis we can actually bolster their capacity to do what they should be doing.
A part of why I asked the question, Mr. Coovadia, is also that, we've got a recent example of an entity, Eskom, where business directly funded an investigation there on the request of the then CEO, Andre de Ruyter. And while we all speak about malfeasance at Eskom and absolutely necessary to get, to the heart of it, that in and of itself has had consequences reflecting on what's happened almost in the first half of this year. And so how do we avoid that happening? And, and when you talk about a fund that will be created where the money that's fundraised will go into, does it mean that when we talk about, if we have Transnet, for instance, there will be no money directly going to Transnet, but that there will be a support of services? Just flesh it out a bit more for me.
Yeah, so that's exactly the case. So if you take, let's not talk about what might happen in Transnet in future. Let's talk about what has already happened in the energy with NECOM. We raised the money, half of it from a global foundation and half of it from South African business. It was raised by a not-for-profit. The not-for-profit used that money to procure the expertise, and we had a procurement team made up of senior procurement professionals from some corporates, chaired by Andrew Donaldson, who used to be with Treasury. They, through a public procurement process, through RFPs, interviewed firms, arrived at a shortlist for the various areas of expertise that NECOM identified it needed, put that shortlist through ethics checks, put those shortlists to NECOM and the presidency. They decided on which expertise they needed, and that expertise was donated to NECOM. No money went into the presidency, and we will do that similarly with other stuff that we need to raise money for. Let me just also say on the Eskom stuff, we were approached by the then CEO. We looked at the situation. We felt that the situation at Eskom was very, very serious. It needed to be looked at to actually address the energy crisis. And again, on an arm's length basis, we agreed to fund an investigation. We did not choose a service provider. Eskom, whatever process the CEO adopted, that's Eskom's issue. They chose a service provider, and they got the report. So we don't believe we acted with any malafide there. And whatever opinion others may have, we can debate that. But in a similar way, we will do this on an arm's length basis. When the President approached us to assist with the energy stuff, we said we will assist, but we will not put money into the presidency. We will manage the funds. We will do the procurement in an open basis, and we are committed to regularly informing the public of progress in all of these areas. So we met the President yesterday. This morning we briefed broader business. This afternoon we had a press roundtable where we briefed the press, and we will do that after every meeting, and we will do that as this unfolds and as progress can be reported on.
Business Unity South Africa CEO Cas Coovadia. We'll leave it there for tonight.